So Sam, I actually have one that I think is important that we get to, um, just because it's incredibly popular lately, and it's is it worth considering self-publishing? And if yes, is there a way to do it right? Is there a way to do it poorly?
I feel like self-publishing, people that are impatient have become self-publishers. And honestly, even if you get a book deal from like a Penguin Random House, it could be 2 years. They could say, we're back, we've got all these books from writers that we've already made promises to, so your book won't be out for 2 years. And that's a tough thing to have to hear. So I feel the number one thing is a kind of impatience, and the fact that there's no longer any kind of stigma with self-publishing. The issue, though, is that if you don't have a big community, you're having the same thing that the publishers are asking about, which is they're like, how many do you have? 300,000 people that know who you are and that are actively following you and that'll support you and buy your book. So in terms of self-publishing, I mean, we have somebody who's even self-published, Gene, who then got a subsequent deal. So I mean, that's really rare and it's kind of awesome. But the tragic side of self-publishing is that most self-published books sell 300 copies. That's people going through their friends, their families, people they just met, people at parties, doing their thing. And then after that, what do they do? So I think the idea of if they publish and can build some traction and build some followers and fans and do something awesome with it, like Rupi Kaur self-published. So there's an example. But because it was poetry and because she had this Instagram channel that she could use over many years to build an audience, so that seemed to work. For nonfiction and fiction and memoir, I think it's really tough unless you already have built an audience and built I mean, if somebody told me that they were stuck, they were definitely going to self-publish because they didn't want to wait, I would say, you know what, it might be worth building an audience by blogging about some of the themes and some of the issues and things you're exploring in your book first, so that at least you've got this, you built a community around it. Because at the end of a year of doing that, you might have 5,000 people that are following you, and you might have other thing that I mentioned that's interesting, that only happens online, which is something goes viral. And then that would really help whether you self-publish or not. So, I mean, other than speed to market, meaning that you can publish your book in a week rather than waiting a year and a half or 2 years. People like the control, which is they can design the book how they want. They can use their own typeface. They don't have to have a publisher do it and negotiate with a publisher. The people that are the most successful self-publishers are people that get excited about publishing. They're business people. They're the people that would make a good publisher publishing somebody else. They just happen to be publishing themselves. So I feel like if that's something you feel you can do, that you can be committed to promoting what you're doing, without, as Emily says, resorting to auto posting, buy my book, please, that it might be worth it. And if you have a marketing plan, a business plan, it's going to cost you a little bit of money. It might cost you more than a little bit of money if you start hiring professionals. One thing that I'm seeing is a lot more crowdfunding. If you look on Kickstarter, writers are raising money that way, which is an interesting thing to think about if you want to self-publish. That it's essentially you're selling a subscription to the book before you write it or publish it or whatever. So I would say that's probably more viable than just publishing it and then trying to worry about the market, because in effect, you've now identified and created a market for the book, and they pre-ordered it. Now you just got to finish it and make it and send it to them. So, I'd say 90% of self-publishing is people aren't happy with it because they weren't really publishers. They just really wanted to be writers and they couldn't wait. So, and the 10% that are successful are just, it becomes a thing like The Martian, where it was such a good book. And I don't think that book even was submitted because he didn't have an agent. It was never shown to publishers. It just got a movie deal, which then led to a bidding war with the publishers. So I hope that answers some of those ideas about self-publishing and the value of it.